What's up everybody? Nate here. So the stock market has done nothing but essentially crash since the start of 2022. We've seen the Dow, S&P 500, and NASDAQ come way down off of their record highs. And there is a few different reasons for this. For one, we have the Federal Reserve talking about raising interest rates and pulling all of its economic stimulus from Wall Street. We also have a pretty serious and crazy crisis going on between Ukraine and Russia right now. That is threatening inflation, but it's also threatening a lot of businesses over here in the United States. That has left investors to ask, what the heck can I invest in right now? Because stocks are clearly going to continue to tank because this Ukraine-Russia situation is only getting worse, and the Federal Reserve has yet to start raising interest rates, but they're probably going to do that sometime in 2022. There are two things that investors are starting to pour their money into right now. The first is gold and other metals, and the other is cryptocurrency. We've actually seen gold come up from its low point in 2022 of around $1,700 to $1,800 per ounce, and cryptocurrency, Bitcoin in particular, is exploding right now. It's actually gone from around $37,000 per coin all the way up to $44,000 as of March 1st, 2022. So the real question is, why is gold and cryptocurrency starting to explode right now, and how long is this going to last for? But before I break all of this down, do me a quick favor and hit, smash, or destroy that thumbs up button below and ring that notification bell too. Both of those two things are completely free and they help to show me that you like this video and that you want to see even more just like it. Thank you so much for doing that, and now let's talk all about why gold and cryptocurrency are suddenly starting to explode. So let's start with the gold market. Now the gold market is actually starting to go back up near $2,000 per ounce of gold after it was suddenly starting to drop in 2022. The reason for its drop over the past couple months is because investors were starting to assume that our economy was getting a little bit better, and they were starting to look at the inflation numbers and what the Federal Reserve was going to do and decided that it wasn't all going to be that bad. So investors started to pull their money from the gold market and they started to move it back to your traditional assets like stocks and bonds. But all of that has started to change as of March 2022. We're seeing a huge push towards gold right now, and I think that is because of the Ukraine-Russia crisis. Now you might be thinking, how exactly does the Ukraine-Russia crisis affect markets in the United States and of course the gold market? Well, that's because markets in the United States are starting to tank, and they're starting to tank because everything that's happening over across the sea is affecting us and it's affecting our businesses. Essentially how it works is Russia is a huge supplier and producer of a lot of the things the United States uses every single day, like oil and certain metals and wheat. All of those industries are increasing in price right now because Russia is placing sanctions on the United States and preventing those resources from going across the world. So what exactly does that mean? That means all your businesses that use all of these raw materials to make even more goods now have to pay way more for all of the same things, which means they're ultimately going to make a lot less things, or if they can make all the same things, they have to pay more. Those costs get trickled down to the American consumer because they can't make more for free. That means people are buying things at a much higher price and the things aren't really changing. That hurts ideas of all of these companies, but it also hurts Americans' pockets. They're not going to be able to buy as much, which is going to hurt businesses' profits and revenue. Investors are starting to see that on the New York Stock Exchange, and they're pulling their money because they're afraid that things are going to continue to get worse. But it's not just all of the resources that Russia is kind of hoarding right now and keeping away from countries all throughout the world. There's a lot of resources in Ukraine too, and all of those industries are gonna start collapsing. But more importantly, Russia is a huge country and it trades using US dollars. When the United States purchases things from Russia, it uses United States dollars and vice versa. The United States dollar is a powerful currency and it's used all throughout the world for a variety of different things. If a major world superpower like Russia can no longer use United States dollars for a lot of its purchases, well, that means the US dollar is going to start losing value because less people in the world want US dollars. In addition, that means less US dollars are going to be circulating throughout the world, which means less overall money for the United States and United States businesses. And all of that is happening because the United States, the UK, and a ton of other countries throughout the world have banned Russia from moving any of their money in and out of the country. Russian banks and oligarchs and other super wealthy people in the country have been completely removed from the SWIFT banking system. The SWIFT banking system essentially connects businesses and other banks all around the world to a central banking system. That allows pretty much any country to connect to the SWIFT banking system and then send payments and transactions all throughout the world. Russia can't do that because they have pretty much been removed until they end this war in Ukraine. And I don't mean just end it, they completely remove themselves from the country. So all of that means bad news for markets all throughout the world because it's less US dollars that are being used to buy things, and less US dollars that are in circulation is bad for capitalism, and it's bad for our economy. The stock market is seeing that and starting to move their money around, and where they're moving their money to is in gold and cryptocurrency. Those two assets are considered to be hedges against inflation and market crashes. The reason being is because they're seen as having universal value all throughout the world. People want gold and people want cryptocurrency. It's going to have the same value because it takes the same amount of time, energy, and resources in order to produce. So investors are pouring their money into these assets so that way they can take these raw materials and then sell them for whatever currency they want in the world. And the same thing with the Federal Reserve here. Now, before this Russia-Ukraine situation really started, a lot of investors were pulling their money from gold because they actually saw our economy was recovering and there was a need and a want for US dollars. Now that's starting to go away. Russians can't really get a handle on US dollars right now. Their entire economy is basically collapsing on itself. That means the value of gold is most likely going to continue as long as the Russia-Ukraine crisis is going on. I think that is the main cause of gold actually rising because markets are in a really bad place right now, and they're scared that this Russia-Ukraine conflict is only going to get worse. Russia has said that they only want Ukraine at this time. However, Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, could continue into the neighboring countries. That would basically mean that World War III breaks out before we know it, and the US dollar is going to tank, as well as a ton of other currencies. I mean, right now we're starting to see the ruble, basically the Russian dollar, collapse. 108 rubles right now is equivalent to 1 US dollar, which means 1 ruble is worth less than 1 US cent. So it's basically worthless, and the country is battling high inflation and high interest rates on top of all of that. And now they have a new issue to come across. They can't use any of their money because none of their money can go out of the country because they're banned from SWIFT, and all of the resources that would have been going into Russia have also been banned. The United States and the United Kingdom have put so many economic sanctions on the country, and the worst part is they could do even more. Ultimately, that's going to affect the United States economy because Russia does a lot of business around the world, so all of that business is also not going to come to the US, but it's worth it if it can convince the Russian president and the Russian military to pull out and stop this Ukraine war. Hasn't yet though, and we don't really know how long this conflict is going to last for. So investors are moving to gold and cryptocurrency. So we kind of covered why investors are going to be putting their money into gold, but here's why they might want to consider cryptocurrency too. Well, the crazy thing right now about the crypto market is that you can use it all throughout the world, and Russians are currently exploiting that and using that to their full advantage in Russia. You see, when Russia and the Russian people were banned from the universal banking system of SWIFT, they still have to spend their money, so they're actually turning to cryptocurrency right now. That's right, you have millions of Russians who are actively using Bitcoin and Ethereum and Dogecoin and Shiba Inu and all of these other cryptos because they can't use their own money or US dollars. That has basically sent the value of Bitcoin and Ethereum through the roof overnight because it solves a lot of the problems that Bitcoin was facing just before that. One of the biggest issues with Bitcoin is adoptability. Not a lot of businesses across the world are accepting it as a legitimate form of payment. But if Russia and a lot of Russian businesses start accepting it as a legit form of payment, well, now you're going to see the price of Bitcoin go through the roof because it's valuable. People want it. That is the same reason why the United States dollar is so valuable in the first place. I mean, think about it. The United States dollar is just a piece of paper, but it's backed by the United States federal government. I don't think the feds are going anywhere anytime soon. That means it has value because the United States government is so strong and they guarantee that you can always use it. Now, the same could be said for cryptocurrency if the entire world was to start backing it. And right now, Russia is really the first major country to do so. So like I said, Russians are starting to use Bitcoin and Ethereum and all of these other cryptocurrencies. But there's also been tens of millions of dollars that has poured into Ukraine in support of the country over the past month or so. All of this money is in the form of donations, and it's able to allow all of Ukrainians who can't really access their banks or any other type of money right now to still buy things because it's all digital. They don't have to carry that cash around with them. And literally, the Ukrainian government is using it, which is a massive major government. Ukraine is using all this money to defend themselves and just to spend money in general. Now that they have that, they're literally able to do anything that they need, and it's all because cryptocurrency is universal and it's not tied down to one particular country or another. And then finally, you have the more traditional reason why cryptocurrency is exploding right now. People are using it as a hedge against inflation, and they're also using it as a hedge against market crashes. Obviously, the stock market crash in the United States has been pretty bad so far. But the Russian stock market isn't even open right now because it has tanked more than 40 to 50% in just the span of a few days since Russia invaded Ukraine. The Russian people and the market do not like that. And on top of that, the ruble is basically worthless. But if only there was another currency that you could invest in that has nothing to do with traditional markets or traditional currency. You see the point now? If people want it, then it's valuable. So you're seeing Bitcoin and Ethereum and all of these other cryptocurrencies shoot up super quickly, and it's able to protect them because all of these currencies that are falling and going up right now that are tied to traditional assets like stocks and bonds and treasury notes, well, that doesn't matter because Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is not tied to any of that. Not only that, but you have the Federal Reserve and Federal Reserve Chairman that is about to have a super big meeting before Congress. He's expected to talk all about interest rates and his money being pulled from the New York Stock Exchange all in the span of 2 days. This is also just a couple weeks before the Federal Reserve is expected to start raising its benchmark interest rates. Since the pandemic really started in March of 2020, its interest rates were set at around 0%. They wanted to incentivize people to go spend a ton of money. That led to a lot of demand though, which ultimately led to a lot of supply and demand issues, which also led to a lot of inflation. In fact, inflation right now is at a near 40-year high. That's most likely going to continue to go up because of the Ukraine-Russia crisis. Like I said, all of the goods and services that are coming over in the United States are going to cost more, and those prices trickle down to the American consumer. Like just the other day, I filled up my gas tank and the price went from $3.29 from last week all the way up to $3.55. And that's just in the span of about 7 days. And as of March 1st, 2022, oil hit around $108 a barrel. That is a near decade high, and that might continue to go up as that crisis gets worse. Not just that though, the wheat industry and anything else that's coming out of Russia is going to explode in price. Now, the Federal Reserve has to respond to all of that in addition to all of its money printing and all of the demand that we have in the United States. They have to lower demand now, so they want to raise their interest rates. They don't want people to easily be able to go out and spend their money. They want to make it a little bit harder. So not to say that nobody is going to spend, but it's just going to be a little bit harder to do so. And when you have a situation like that, then inflation is going to start coming coming down. But here is the issue. The Federal Reserve can't exactly do all of these things to lower inflation if all of the inflation is being caused by factors that are outside of the United States. If inflation is coming from Ukraine and Russia, then raising interest rates in the US isn't gonna really help. In fact, it might hurt our economy because now it's even harder for people to go out and spend. How exactly does that affect cryptocurrency? Well, they kind of know that Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is gonna make a lot of announcements, and he's gonna talk about what the Federal Reserve is planning on doing in mid-March when they start raising interest rates. People wanna buy in now and kind of send the price through the moon so that way they can get that last piece of all of this money printing and low interest rates while they can get it. It's kind of twofold right now. You're seeing things explode for kind of the last time. But things cannot possibly go in this direction forever. I mean, you can't see Bitcoin and gold continue to go up and up in price forever. The reason that they're here is because of short-term things that are happening in our global economy and in our global markets. I really do hope that the Russia-Ukraine situation can come to a diplomatic solution sometime super soon. I mean, I cannot possibly imagine something like this happening in 2022, but here it is before my eyes. There is a war in Ukraine right now, and that is a terrible, scary thing. The faster that is resolved, the sooner the whole entire world can start recovering from the pandemic, and of course, that war itself. Markets will start to go back up because they'll realize all of those trades and all of those goods and services that were coming out of Russia can continue as normal. You'll probably see energy prices go way back down because now we're getting all of our oil and all of our other resources back from Russia. But if things don't change sometime soon, then you're probably going to run into an energy crisis. And that's not just for the United States, that's for the entire world. So in the short term, I think you're going to continue to see the likes of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin and Ethereum, and gold continue to rise in price. I'm not really sure how high they're going to go up to. It really just depends on the severity of what happens in Ukraine and Russia. If that conflict continues to escalate, then you'll probably see those prices go up super quickly. And right now, it looks like things might continue to escalate because Russian President Vladimir Putin has put his nuclear arsenal on high alert. That is beyond scary, which makes investors extremely emotional. They want nothing to do with markets right now. They want to pull their money out and either hold it or invest in something that's going to have universal value after we have a massive world war. We continue to rely on things that are going to continue to lose value. I mean, all they'll be doing is losing money in the process. In the long term, though, I think it's going to be really difficult to make a case for cryptocurrency and gold to continue to rise based on the factors that are going on in the world. I mean, do I think that cryptocurrency is again going to go up? Eventually. Not sure by how much. It really just depends on everything that happens. Gold, on the other hand, is directly tied to world events and market crashes and inflation. If those things are kind of kept under control, then gold will go back down to its basic price of around $1,500 to $1,800 per ounce. Cryptocurrency is a little bit different because you're not just investing in a currency, you're also investing in a technology, and technology is rapidly growing. So that might continue to go up regardless. So we'll have to keep an eye on both of those two things as this war in Russia and Ukraine and our stock market crashes and inflation at home escalate and continue. So keep an eye on the Federal Reserve. I'll definitely have more updates for you on this channel, so be sure to check back over the next few days for everything the Federal Reserve is about to say and what is going on in the Ukraine-Russia crisis. Keep an eye on those two assets, gold and cryptocurrency, because they can really give you some insight on how markets are behaving around the world and what exactly is coming next, or at least what everyone thinks is about to come next. But now I want to hear from you on this issue. What do you think about gold and cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum starting to explode in March of 2022? Do you think this is something that's going to be temporary, or do you think that we're going to continue to see those two assets go up in value because the world is in shambles right now? Whatever your thoughts are, leave a comment below before you go. But that is it for today's business and financial news breakdown. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to stay up to date with all of the top business and financial news from around the country, our team puts together a free daily newsletter, and you can subscribe to it by clicking the link in this corner right here. Or if video's more your thing, I'm putting out updates 7 days a week over here on this channel, and I actually have another one ready for you right here, so be sure to check that out before you go. That is it for me, everybody. Be kind out there, and I'll see you all in the next one.